A similar thought experiment was created for with the Silurian hypothesis, and by being myself a Doctor Who fan, I'm very I'm very fond of that thought exercise. Where a bunch of years ago, in the field of astrobiology and anthropology, the fictional question of what if there was a very advanced technology based civilization millions of years back, way before the humans developed. And they may be like the Silurians in the Doctor Who show. Maybe there were aliens that inhabited Earth. How would we go finding out about it? And will we be capable of doing that? So we know that a bunch of millions of years ago, there was already enough fossil fuel sources to millions of years back in the past foster an industrial technology and society like ours. Now, the people that started this experiment, they did not really think that there was such a civilization. But what if? And trying to think, what should we be looking for? What will we find? And if we go on Mars or the moon, and we would try and find some artifacts that maybe the lack of atmosphere preserved way better than on Earth, or if we excavate, will we find something in the geological texture of planet Earth or others that would be a testimony of such a civilization? So they were starting thinking, what should we be looking for? What do we expect? And similarly, we could run the same kind of thought experiment where we go and think, way in the future, we'll look back, what will the archaeologists of the future find when it comes to AI? So in archaeology, you will have artifacts. You mentioned them, right? So there will be a bunch of things that the archaeologists will be looking for. There's the ecofacts and the artifacts and the features. So you're looking for either items that are being created by humans. So that will be artifacts. So things like, I don't know, a knife carved out of a stone, right? So be looking at tools and you go, oh, this is human made. Right. Or then the archaeologists will be looking for features, the pyramids, like the known portable devices, let's say. We have that fingerprint, or we should say foot on Earth, where we know we can study past civilizations that way. And there's the ecofats, so there will be impact on the environment that are not human created, but there are traces of human activities. Say, for example, have like a burn mark, and you know that there was a fire there. And in the plant of the house, that's where the fire was kept. So people were gathering around this fire. They were cooking. Maybe they were getting the family together around the fire. But there isn't anything that is showing us that there was a fire there in a prehistoric or a Viking home. But there are traces, burn marks that will show us, oh, most likely there was a domestic fire here. So that's where the ecofacts come in place. So you got artifacts, objects, features like buildings, and ecofacts like traces that were left in the environment. So we try, maybe, like having this kind of thought experiment, we can try and think, what will be the artifacts, features, and ecofacts that in the future, the archaeologists of the future will find? What do you think? Maybe our viewers, listeners will start, wondering, saying questions. So you got artifacts, definitely laptops, smartphones, any sort of portable devices, VR glasses or AR glasses, and so on and so forth. So if we start asking ourselves the question, what are our artifacts? What are the items that we live with every day? That will start giving us an understanding of the kind of society we live in now. And then, you start thinking, wait a minute, is that always physical artifacts? If I generate a picture on ChatGPT, would that be an artifact? And would that be a human artifact, or would that be an AI artifact? Or would that be a mix of the two? But then again, you start thinking, okay, there's not only physical artifacts, there's also digital artifacts. And they may not be entirely human. They may be either generated by humans, so there's a creative value in your prompting. They may be coming from previous human work. And then again, we're going to the data training, and they be coming from an algorithmic elaboration. So the AI is being taking your prompt, taking training material, and by working with the different ways that it has, for stable diffusion and before, it will create an image. And then again, you go, what are the features? Maybe massive data centers, energy draw with massive data centers. And
Yeah.
what will be the ecofacts, the impact on the environment of
Mhm.
such massive data centers? So if you start thinking, I think that the best thing for our viewers and listeners to kind of like the value to this thought experiment would be, let me become an archaeologist. Let me
Mhm.
think, I got artifacts, I got features, I got eco-facts. Let me try and put into these three boxes everything that is happening around us today. And that will give us certainly a much better sense of what is it that we're building, what is the kind of world that we're living in.
And as we continue building the systems, what kind of digital legacy are we leaving behind? So you mentioned the massive data centers, but what does it mean to design technology with that sense of future responsibility in mind, knowing that our algorithms might outlive us?
So you mean the kind of legacy that we're going to leave behind us, whether it's physical or information based, right?
Yeah,
Or digital, right?
that's right. What would we want to leave behind to the future generations to study?
Yeah, that is a great question. And it's not only a matter of what I would leave behind me or what we would leave behind us as things to study, but also the damage that we can create and the kind of stuff that people, the archaeologists of the future will have to leave by. So when it
Mm.
comes to damage, that the legacy that I don't want to leave, and that we should ask ourselves questions to avoid that will
Yeah,
be mostly, at least for me, most importantly around environmental impact. So we're going into the ecofacts stage, right? So where you go, there's rare minerals that will go into deficiency because we've been massively using this for building our machines. There will be a lot of e-waste that will be left behind. There will be the environmental footprint of data centers. So if you start thinking this way, you go, oh, here is a legacy that we're leaving behind us. Do we want to leave that legacy behind us? Because if we don't want to, then we need to rethink some of these things. So
that's
then we need to mine the earth differently, leave less e-waste behind, and be mindful about the environmental impact of data centers. So that's a great way to go to start from a negative approach and go, this is the stuff that I don't want to leave behind. And for the positive approach is that more on point to your question, what do we want to leave behind? And I think I would generally want to leave any form of culture, knowledge, information that is functional to a better human life and not dysfunctional in any way, especially to social relationship. So I would want to have, if we look at digital artifacts, something where the human footprint is visible, where AI is used as a tool that is complementary to human activity, that is less biased as it possibly can be, that is reflective of a multicultural point of view. So essentially touching all that we have said so far, I
yeah.
would want the archaeologists to go and look at, oh, we don't have a massive amount of content that is absolutely and utterly useless, that is biased and culturally blind and so on and so forth. I want the opposite of all of that to be able to be traced by archaeologists in the future. And again, this kind of thought exercise will have us thinking a little bit more about what we're doing today. And we don't want an archaeologist of the future to look at some AI generated text and go, oh, humans were writing all the same way back in those days. Humans were really disrespectful of this number of cultures because that AI content is not reflecting any of that whatsoever.